Awesome. So I'm pretty sure that we're live now. So welcome everyone. Good evening. I'm sure that it's evening from where you're joining from if you're with us over here in Africa. Welcome to another webinar on empowering farmers with knowledge beyond the fields. My name is Udo, and I'll be moderating this session today. As we all know, it's not news that education, especially agricultural education, has the power to transform lives. And for us at Yemet, we are also about empowering communities. We want to ensure sustainability as much as possible. We want to ensure that farmers are able to build the resilience and are able to practice sustainable agriculture. So today on this webinar on empowering farmers beyond the fields, we're going to explore together with our guests, we're going to explore how we can bridge critical knowledge gaps for farmers, especially smallholder farmers, people who have farm sizes as equivalent to the size of a football pitch. So those are who are the majority of the farming demography or farming communities across Africa. And these people are in the rural areas, undeserved populations. And so today we're thrilled to have amazing lineup of speakers who bring together their wealth of experience and actionable insights. So all our guests would individually help us to dive into this topic today about how can we overcome the barriers in education and how can we leverage technology, whether it's low or advanced technology, to empower these underrepresented groups in Africa, which are our smallholder farmers. Today, obviously, we're going to first introduce everybody on our guest speaker list, and then we'll dive right through asking our guests multiple questions and engage in meaningful discussions about this topic on empowering farmers beyond the field. Um, so if you're joining live, welcome. Please engage on the live session in the chat. Engage as much as possible. We would jump back at the live session to see if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, we will have a good time today. So we'll just go straight into introducing our line of speakers. And our first speaker on this call is the lovely Jacqueline. She's a passionate advocate for food security and has so many years of experience in handling food security programs over there in Malawi. She's the founder of J Foods Company. Um, so far, from the work that Jacqueline has done, she has transformed lives. She has trained women in nutritional supplement production, and she supported smallholder farmers as well with seeds and also some knowledge training. Jacqueline, is really an honor to have you here. Um, Another guest that we have today is Lucy Chioma Anyaholu. So Lucy, I'm fortunate to have met her before this webinar, and she has also been around the agricultural education space for a while. She's the founder of Agrodzemi. So Agrodzemi Africa is that entity or platform that trains people who perhaps are starting out, in the agricultural business journey. Whether you're an agricultural enthusiast or you already practice agriculture in some capacity, Agrodermy is there to provide the knowledge that you need to grow your business or your farm craft or your farming activity. But Lucy, on her own, is a professional who has been involved in designing curricula, and this curricula has impacted thousands of youth. If we want to blow her trumpet, we'd probably say over 5,000. But yeah, so really happy to have you join us here. on this webinar. Thank you so much, Lucy, for being here with us. And our last, but not the least speaker, is Mr. David here, who is a marketing manager at Prime Agro Seeds. David is an expert in working with farmers to provide quality inputs, and he has worked on multiple strategies to improve access to education for farmers. We're also privileged to have him join our extension services at HMNet, and so he's going to be working closely with our community of farmers across Nigeria to support in transforming their agricultural practices through the solutions that we provide at TMNet. So welcome everybody, welcome Jacqueline, welcome Lucy, welcome David. We'll just kickstart the conversation, and we're going to start with you, Jacqueline, if that's okay. So, Jackie, permit me to call you Jackie. In your experience and your line of work, you work around food security programs. Um, what do you see as the biggest barriers preventing smallholder farmers in rural communities in Malawi, or even scattered across some of the communities that you maybe have been to or have been privileged to have access to? What are these big barriers that are preventing farmers in those communities from accessing critical education that would help them to take their practice to the next level?
All right, thank you so very much. Such a great honor to be here. Like I said, I'm here. I'm having changes to hear you, but if I have heard you correctly, you're talking about the changes that smallholders are facing. So one of the main challenges that the smallholder farmers that I'm working with are facing is barrier to information gap. So most of the information that farmers in Malawi they easily access information only for those that are based in urban town areas. And also we have the other changes to have bank pay harvest. That means sure he needs to have access to farm inputs. And now like our fertilizer, it's very the cost of fertilizer is very high. A bag of fertilizer it's close to $80 per bag, and you need two bags for you to have uh, order farmers to have it. So access to farm inputs in knowledge gap, and also even when they have their farm produce, they can't have access for them to sell. So normally most of the smallholder farmers they're just practicing substitution farming. They're not into commercial farming. So there are a lot of changes that these are sharing. But through my enterprise JFoods, we have started sharing with them information. We have trainings. So we train them how, even though, so with JFoods, we are offering few things. One, we provide training and seed to the smallholder farmers that we're working with. We give them seed at a contract basis, and when they farm, we off-take also on contract basis. So we take 60% of the farm produce. We don't just take, but we buy and we add value through our enterprise. And also we have had some changes for the past few years whereby we were having post-harvest losses. So we started training them how they can take care of the crops after harvesting. And also we have different, more or less like these webinars, but they're different whereby we go to the village and show them different videos of how other farmers are doing, but they're in our local language. And we also work closely with agriculture extension workers that work under government, the government staffs to train them the requirements of them to have one harvest. So in a nutshell, that's what we are doing in Malawi, and I'll keep on diving in as we go on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. While we're waiting for David to joining the call, um, so with Lucy, I mean, it's so much work to
Mm,
engage in active training and education, developing content for people who want to start an agricultural business, people who want to even like engage in any agricultural practice. But I think that you have a hang of things when it comes to designing content and curriculum. Um, that has so far impacted so many people within the agricultural space. What would you say are the key elements of a successful agricultural training program, especially for people in the younger age grade?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So, design a successful agricultural program. There are four key things that should be there. First of all, is why the business. Two is what they need to be successful in the business. Three is when it's the best time to go into the business. And then there's the where around where is the best place for this business. And there's the last touch of it, which is who who has been successful around this business, who are models to follow in this business. So any agricultural curriculum that one has to create must be able to reflect all five of this. People need to know why they should be in a particular agri business, what they stand to gain, what they need to go into the agri business, where and the perfect time for them to go into the agri business. And then because you have told them why the business, what they need, the perfect timing, and what and how the processes around it, the next thing is to show them people who have successfully gone through that same process and have results that can help them navigate through. Once you have all of that in clustered, then you have a successful agricultural program.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, when you're designing your training programs for the communities that you serve or the targets people that you address, how do you solve challenges or how do you approach challenges like access to internet or
Hmm.
even literacy barriers? Because I think that for people who are delving into the agricultural space, um, a lot of them are people who maybe don't have formal education. I mean, there are levels to literacy in that sense. So how do you approach that as a key part of your curriculum designing or your training designing?
Okay, thank you for that question. So the first set of people we try to target are people who do not even have access to knowledge and who do not have the money to afford, quality knowledge. First, what we have done is streamline more simpler introductory models which are available on YouTube for them to just access to understand the business of what they want to do. So that's like a YouTube University for agriculture. For people who do not now have access to internet, with YouTube you are able to save videos offline to access them even when you don't have access to internet. So for us, having that YouTube University is a way of us to solve for the problem of people who don't have access to internet. When you have internet, save up these videos so that when you're offline you can still access them. Then the other part of what we are doing for people who do not even have access to phone and internet is the fact that we now have the ebook store. So we have like an ebook market where all of this knowledge that are in form of online courses are also designed in books. And people have the opportunity to download this book and print for them to have hard copies in their homes where they can always go back to, just feed on this knowledge and information. Something we are looking to also do in the future, beyond what we currently do now, is just have hubs where people can come into. I don't have access to internet. There's like a mini hub where people can come in to use PCs to digitize any of their process, taking the online courses, read through any book. And for those who also try to digitize the records that they keep, because record keeping is one of an integral part of what we teach on our school. They are able to also come to that hub to digitize the records that they have kept offline, within the system. But this is how we are trying to just um address the problem. Those who do not have internet, download the videos offline. Those who do not have internet or even light to access digital products, have it offline with you in form of hard copy books. Thank you.
That's wonderful and brilliant at the same time that you're able to have these guys, or design your training to fit, multiple um, uh, requests. So we're going to head back to Jackie, and I'm very interested and intrigued by the work that you have done. I don't know if you're still doing it, but I think you're in a position to share. So the work that you've done with the Village Savings Loan, the group on the Village Savings Loan. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but yes. So maybe give us a bit of information or storyline about how that entire experience went, and from the work that you have done, what do you think? How do you think financial literacy can come into play when you're trying to empower farmers or people in rural communities? And how also do you think that we can integrate financial literacy into agricultural education? I mean, is it something that is highly needed? And then how also can we start to gradually implement that or integrate it into agricultural education?
All right, thank you for that question. So when I was starting, we were just starting as training, started with trainings. But in the long run, we realized that these women, these smallholder farmers, because I work closely with women, adolescent girls and young women, smallholder farmers. So mostly during close to harvest period, they used to sell all their farm produce to other people that were buying at a cheaper price, because those months are the months that we experience hunger in Malawi. So like someone will just come and buying 1 hectare of corn at $200. So of course people they were striving and they need the money, so they were just selling all the corn, and after finishing the $200, they go back to the same challenges. So we started giving them farming on contract basis. After buying the seed, whereas that the women were just using the money anyhow, not investing in in appropriate things. So we introduced to them the average of smallholder loan, so that after selling, they should be saving. After selling the farm produce, they should be saving by and by in long run, and also others they should be able to support their homes, because most of these women that I work with, they are single parent women. So with the vegetables and loan, now we have 10 groups of 27 each in each group. And last year, one group managed to save up to 4.6 US dollars. And these women now, they're now able to build decent homes for themselves, send their children to school fees. So for them to manage this is because of the training that we do. Like we also give them through the VSL, we give them financial literacies. Because if they didn't know how to take value of the money, how to manage the money, they could have been still opting to sell the clubs to other people, because you see, you are striving and someone is coming to offer you $300 at once. You might think that it's a lot of money, but in a short run. But when you look at throughout the year, because the mess that you're going to have to eat them throughout the year, it's nothing. So that's why we thought, oh, okay, we should train them. We also, apart from this, we also train them how to process nutrition supplements product from Hope News. Because at J Foods, our mission is to help our customers for health, and we believe that for people to be happy, they need to have healthy meals. So apart from people that we sell our products to, we also encourage these women to process nutrition supplements products at home. So the trainings, the financial literacies, I feel like they have helped a lot. And now others are from having 1 acre of farm, they're now extending to have 2 or 3 acres of farm. If they couldn't have done these trainings of financial literacies, they could have reached this far. So I believe that smallholder farmers, they learn, apart from giving them enough knowledge of farming and agriculture, they also need to be trained on how they can manage their finances for them to be enjoying for sustainability, I should say, for sustainability. Because after selling, they need to be return on investment. So that's what we're doing here at J Foods. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I mean, I was going to also ask how you think we can, buy from some of the, we can take some of the approaches that you've had and the impact that you've had with the VSL. How do we make that, elaborate, and how do some other communities outside of Malawi, how do they adopt that process, or how do we further integrate some of these approaches that has worked for the women back in your community? How do we now replicate that to other communities?
Sorry, you are breaking. Can you please pardon?
Okay, so now I was asking just in a broader sense, how do we replicate what has worked for you in your community? How do you think that can be replicated in other communities?
I don't know if it's me, but I'm having challenges to hear you.
Um, Let me just confirm. Lucy, are you also able to hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Ah, okay. Maybe
Lucy, I
that.
can hear clearly, but you are breaking.
Oh, you
So
can't.
if
Oh, it's
Lucy
just me. You
managed,
can't hear.
yes. So if Lucy
But
managed to get the question, can she?
okay, awesome. So Lucy, I mean, it's just about how do we reintegrate, or how do we uh, further elaborate what has worked for her in her community with the VSL program. How do you replicate that in other communities outside of Malawi?
Okay, so the question she's asking is around how do we expand what you're currently doing to other countries in such a way that is replicable and can be transferable across them?
All right. So about the very savings and
Thank you.
loan, there. Okay, thank you for that, and thank Lucy for coming
It's
in.
probably going to
So
be a co-host.
So I believe that if we put the community at the center of every initiative that we are doing, it's going to be easy for us to take it in every community, because what I'm doing, it's me who is doing it. It seems like I'm at the forefront, but it's the women that are on the grassroots level that are doing it. It's them that are they see how best they are benefiting from the VSL and how their lives have changed through it. So I believe that if we can take it to other communities, we don't need to start with like large groups. We can start it by and by, because we already have women groups in, I think, in almost every community. If we can start with those groups, but we cannot just start like, let's, okay, come on, let's start the VSL, with which money that they'll be able to save. Let's try to empower them by giving them a certain business. If, because we are talking about agriculture, we can start by empowering them with seed. After selling those seed, they're going to be financially independent at a certain level. So after saying that, my brother, okay, don't use all your money in buying farm inputs, household items, and what. Save a certain percentage. We can start with, you are supposed to save 5%. If 10 women, they're bringing 5% of $100 at one place, we're talking about that's almost $50. So, and through that, they should be uh rowing to each other at a certain interest. The interest is for us is 2% interest, because we're not supposed to put the higher interest, because they will also be having changes to pay the money back. But if we give them low interest so that they can do business or invest it in school or in a house, in building or other items, they'll be able to pay back. So we can start with these small groups that are cooperatives. Here we call them cooperatives, that when women they come together, they're doing different types of farming. So we can start even with corn or rice or what. They can start farming vegetables from backyard garden. Vegetables take less than 2 months to grow. They'll take the vegetables, they sell at the market, they'll come with $100, and then they'll save, and then by and by they'll, okay, before starting investing on their own personal things, they'll invest on having a bigger land where they should be farming on a larger scale. And by and by, these women, they are doing the VSL, and also they are promoting nutrition on the household and even in their community. I hope I have responded to your question very well,
Yeah.
Udo.
Yes. Oh, so I was going to ask David a few questions, and now he's off the call. But let's maybe just continue with Lucy. So you really do fantastic work with your training programs. But I want to ask around some of the resources and some of the tools that you actively use for to put together your training, and then also maybe you can also just talk about stakeholder relations. Partnership is a really key part of spreading the work that we do, especially for when you're considering or focusing on education. So maybe let's also, I mean, just as part of the resources that you need to facilitate your program, your training initiatives, and scaling them. Let's consider partnership as one critical part of that. So, what are some perhaps examples of collaborations or successful collaborations that you've had or you've been part of or that you've seen? And what made those collaborations effective?
Okay. So first of all, I'll speak to tools. Because of the way the agricultural sector is designed, using very sophisticated technology tools do not cut it out, because in the kind of work that we do, technology is only an enabler, right? So what that means is that we create all of our content using very simple tools, simple LMS platforms for our technology. And when it comes to engagement and community engagement, we use social media platform. We have majority of the agricultural stakeholder, especially at local level on Facebook, right? And then we have the more tech savvy ones on Twitter, right? So we try to also balance our use of platform, but then the platform that connects both parties together, then it's platforms like WhatsApp. So WhatsApp becomes our active community development tools, while we also try to build houses on this other platform based on the target audience for the particular product we want to build. Another thing we try to do when it comes to partnership is we try to seek partners that and collaboration with stakeholders who are very interested in impact creation. So first thing first, something that we had to do at the beginning of uh, at the initial very early stage of our business is to design a program that teaches people, agri professionals, how to digitize their knowledge and experience. So during that program, we were able to, identify agri business owners who are interested in even digitizing their knowledge and experience. And these people are then the people we work with as experts, expert reviewers when we create our content internally. We create most of our content based off research and partnering with these experts to align our thoughts, which is why an integral part of this, that was when we identified that an integral part of a curriculum in the agricultural ecosystem is not necessarily practical content, but more around, when you make a research content, do you have story of somebody who has been successful at it? That story of that person does a better work than you just being in the field and creating this content. Then on collaborations that we have seen that have worked is most of our collaborations were non-profit. More recently, we had a partnership with a non-profit who was training young people, teenagers in the agricultural sector, and they reached out to us to say, we want to bring you young people to agriculture. Do you think your model will work? And we're like, you know what, let's do it. And with this partnership, we had the students, these teenagers go through online courses, and then they had a 1D demonstration, right? We focused on processing, that was also part of that was when we were trying to validate the model that to get young people into agriculture, you have to focus on business opportunities that are far away from farming, that I'm talking about farming. By the end of that progress, that partnership lasted for 1 year, and what we see was that at the end of the program, more than 70% of the young people were interested in agriculture over technology, because the program trained them in technology and also trained them in agriculture and other vocational skill. And these students were to make presentation of business ideas they think they want to run with post program. And of all the business ideas that were submitted, 75% of them were agri business ideas. It just further validated the fact that young people would come into agriculture when you attract them with the right value chain, and they will tilt to how you then want them to tilt, which is production and the overall, when they see the business to what they are doing. Those have been most of our, so in conclusion, those have been like our models, trying to use simple technology to focusing on working with experts to tell us more of their stories and just reviewing our research based content, and then partnering with organizations that allows us to be very, very flexible with how we want to reach to these customers, and the kind of personas that they want us to reach out to with their content. Generally, that's how we have moved around. The last part of it I would want to speak to is funding. So we also have postulated that, when there's a funding bit to the program, then there's a place of consultation and matching with peers. We also realize that peer-to-peer learning is something that has worked in the agricultural space a lot, far more than when you even ask people to take online courses or go for group physical training. And this is also something that we have also integrated within our learning system to ensure that, when you come on Agronomy, you take online courses. If you're not interested in online courses, you can come to us and we'll connect you to somebody running similar business that can just answer some of your questions, and you can grow in tandem with them, following like the community centric approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I also do have a follow-up question with regards to some of the things that you just shared. But let me just confirm if David is still on this call. Hi,
Hi,
David. Are you still
David.
there? Okay. I guess you're the only guest, so let's
Mhm.
keep the chat going. So with some of the things that you've mentioned, I think that's the audience would maybe need to get a good understanding of the kind of programs that you run and also what this program is meant for. Because just relating it to our topic here, who pretty much is centered around farmers and pretty much the ones in the rural communities. Do you by chance serve with youths in those rural communities who practice active farming activities, or are you only just focused on um, people who are a lot more tech savvy and are looking to build solid agricultural businesses? So let's maybe just get that facts established
Okay.
on who
Mm.
your trainings have been for, who are the demography of people who have taken your trainings in the past, and who are you currently serving with the educational programs that you are creating.
More of our target audience when we started Agrodemy were youth who are interested in agriculture, and these are usually youth in urban and semi-urban centers across Nigeria. As that continued, we then moved to start targeting existing agribusiness owners, targeting farmers who are looking to go into value addition as a way to increase market value and create new product line for revenue for their business. Then it was in the process of that we realized that there is a very huge gap between agribusiness owners or existing agribusiness owners across the chain and technology, right? And that was when we introduced the Agro Digital Officer Academy to bridge that gap, to say, what, irrespective of the kind of agribusiness you run, there is a technology that can help you scale what you're doing, either from record keeping to operational processes, to productivity. And now we are now serving that audience, and with that audience it then cuts across existing farmers, people who just want to be agro digital officers to support farmers as a career, or people who already run this business and looking for ways to scale it, or even employees within agricultural organizations that are looking for ways, to add, to become more productive or relevant within their organization. And that opens our scope of audience interests with what we are doing at Algorithm.
All right, so that's fantastic. And in this, across some of the programs that you've had in the past, have you ever faced cultural barriers before? And if yes, how did you yeah, how did you navigate that, and how do you think that going forward we can overcome some of these cultural barriers from people in the agricultural space that are in the both urban, peri-urban, and also like the rural settlements?
One thing I always say is before you introduce any program, you have to understand the needs of the people, right? Which is why needs assessment is very, very important, either in proxy, or in the location of where you're trying to target. And that is because there are people who you can tell your story or convince them to buy into what you're doing based on their needs, right? When you're speaking to farmers, most of farmers' needs are around market access. So it means that any program you are designing for them has to be a program that makes them see why that knowledge can translate to market access. For people in the urban area, it's more about making money from the agricultural sector. So it means that any story or program you deliver must clearly show them how they make money from the agricultural sector, right? If if we build our systems around that, and when anyone is designing any program tries to build around the wants, it's easier to design a training program that works. For young people, it's more around what can they do that makes them relevant to their older ones, right? So with value addition, it keeps them at the edge, because what now happens is that when their parents buy the tomatoes and they are complaining about how the tomatoes are spoiling, they can become superheroes to their parents by telling them that, oh, I know how to process, I know how to package. So that mindset, the why and what people are looking for, are things that you always have to put in front when you're designing any training program or trying to deliver any training program in the agricultural space. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Also, just confirming again from Mr. David if he's still on Discord. I think I need to be checking that at intervals. So, hi David, are you on the call now? Is anyone seeing any horror around David's face? Because it's really scary. Should we turn off his camera from his side? Okay. I mean, this is what network can do to you, but we'll just keep moving on. Okay, so Jackie, we had lost you for some moments. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I had network challenges.
No, I we thought as much. Okay, so I mean, I was still, having that chat with Lucy while you were out, but good thing that we do have a mix of um, the work that we do in terms of. Okay, so I think I'm starting to echo. I don't know if it's just me.
I can hear you.
Okay, so that may be coming from David's side. Maybe he's joined on the live. So, okay, yeah. So what I was saying is that, I mean, this guest list is as diverse as possible. By the time that we want to downscale our individual work, for Lucy and the work that she does with Algodemi, they're a lot more focused on um, targets. Their targets is around the urban and peri-urban, settlements mostly. But Jacqueline on the other side works a lot more with women and youth in urban community. Sorry, in rural communities, right? Okay, Jacqueline. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So, I mean, I did, have that chart with Lucy, and a lot of the context that she pretty much was providing was around, those, the towns and the cities, and people who live, who have access to, these places. So let's go back to the rural communities, and let's, talk about, how do we work in terms of improving access to or bridging the knowledge gap in those rural areas. Jacqueline, what do you think the role of technology is in terms of, are you seeing that people are starting to adopt maybe mobile technology? Are people maybe trying even SMS based learning to widen their knowledge around sustainable agricultural practices? What has worked for you in that community, or in that line of settlement?
All right. So for us in Malawi, we are still backward in terms of technology. We are not like you guys in the West. So
Mm.
there was this other time we were trying to use a drone, and people.
Okay, sorry. So I head west. I think that people have different
Like West
perspectives
Africa.
about.
Oh,
Okay,
it's
okay, west. Okay. All right, so maybe you need to be specific when you're making the notions about West, because for us the West is West, that West. Okay.
all right. So we are a little bit backwards, like other countries. So even when we're trying to use drone, like people, you see people running that no, they're trying to kill us, blah 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 blah. So we are using tech, cause, and also the other thing is the women that I'm working with, some of them, almost 80% of them, they don't have even a gadget, a local phone with buttons. So it's hard for us to do things with technology, because you can't talk about technology without a handset, because that's where we're going to start from. But what we are doing, we are using technology in two ways. The first one, we use PowerPoint presentation, or like we do more or less like a cinema, like I say, whereby we beam videos of different people that are implementing different types of agriculture. So we translate these videos in our local language, so that these women, they can easily grab whatever these women are trying to teach their fellow women in terms of agriculture. And the other thing, we are also using smart climate agriculture, whereby we have irrigation schemes. We have three groups that are using irrigation schemes, that have irrigation schemes. So with irrigation schemes, we are farming different crops, but our main crop is chili, because we at J Foods we also process chili sauce. So because of chili, we need to have access to water throughout the year. That's why we partner with three irrigation schemes, whereby they are altogether, there are a group of 120 people that we are working with. So we are using technology in that way. And also the other way, it's we introduce the concept of these women, the very service group that they are doing. They shouldn't be saving the money at home, because anything can happen and you never know. The treasurer can say, this happened, my child was sick, so I took the money, I do blah 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 blah. So we introduced the concept of they should be saving money on mobile phone. So everyone has there's we have a local internet that is Tenium Tech network in Malawi. So they have a group services, whereby a group of people, they can save money on a mobile phone. We call it Agoro, and there's a certain percentage whereby if a group of people that are saving money in the village, they take the money and put it for investment. We call it Muzwatu. So these are the things that we are doing to use technology, and because we can't, because when we talk about technology, we're talking about tractor, blah blah blah, but we are not on that large scale. We are on a small scale.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a really good feedback or insight. But I think I'd like to have a twist to it, which would come as a follow up. Again, just checking if Mr. David is able to hear us and if he'd like to speak. But before we get to him, Jacqueline, seeing organizations, like Agodemi, who is trying to um, democratize agricultural education and ensures that it gets to different levels of the economical status. For communities like the ones that you operate in Malawi, how do you think that companies, organizations like Agodemi can make much more impact in areas like your own community in Malawi, so that they're able to embrace innovations, because again, I mean, we can't keep saying, oh, we've not gotten to that level yet. I mean, in my head, I'm like, when are we going to get there? Because we have to start to take some radical steps. So for maybe organizations like or Lucy can maybe speak to this, or maybe I'll also um, Jacqueline can speak towards it, and then Lucy can add her thoughts in terms of what maybe Agodami can, or how Agodami can take advantage of, communities like, Jacqueline's, and be able to downscale education in such a way where you're meeting their needs, but you're at the same time trying to see how you can promote innovation, or you can use innovation to scale knowledge training programs.
All right. So I think on that context, everything is doable. It's just the way you present it and the way people they have welcomed the idea. But the good thing is people from from the village, from rural areas, they are willing to learn. That's one thing that I've noticed. They have that hunger of want to learn things. How do we do X? How can we move from X to Y? So if we can have like people like Lucy to come in with different technologies, training us how we can scale up our our field so that we can be having commercial farm produce, not just for the one that we're using. Like I'm used to farm 1 acre for the whole year. So we want for our farmers to move from subsistence farming to commercial farming. We need the context of technology to come in so that we can be able to scale up, but we cannot be using the same old way that our forefathers were doing. So, like the thing that Lucy is doing, they're very highly recommendable. And I'm looking forward, maybe after this, go to have a depth conversation with her and see how best we can work together.
Yeah, awesome. So, Lucy, I mean, speaking of embracing innovation, how do you think that communities like the one Jacqueline says, how do you think, now that, I mean, she had mentioned that they are hungry for knowledge, how do you think with, some of the innovations that you currently use to transmit your knowledge training programs, how do you think that would fit in those communities, those type of communities?
Just as she spoke, I liked that she mentioned that they were still at a very simple technology. And I think that, across Africa, a lot of a lot of the agricultural sector in all African countries still at the point where basic technology is not even well utilized. So for what she spoke to, something that can help is as simple as hosting watch parties. So, if I am to move into Malawi today, I think the first thing I want to do is start hosting watch parties where I would gather people, farmers and community, and just get them to watch videos or already existing videos together. They have systems where they come around to watch these videos maybe twice in a month. They watch one video, they discuss how they are going to implement the knowledge from the videos into their business, because these videos are in English. You want to now also, translate them to their local language. So have someone That's it. So when they watch one line, this person translates it back to them in their language. Alternatively, we could just work together to find someone who speaks the language adequately to recreate these videos in their local language, and then watch parties become the way around it. So with watch parties, the first thing you want to do with systems like that is, before you teach people new thing, you have to first of all acknowledge what they already do right. So the first set of courses that should be going into those kind of communities are courses around record keeping. How do they keep record? Get them to appreciate what they do around them before you then begin to introduce, oh, instead of planting 2 centimeter, plant 5 centimeter. Once that has been pushed into the community and people have gotten used to the fact that they would then record what they already do, the next phase would then be to start introducing smaller tools to them. How do we now begin to convince them that, WhatsApp is a way they can grow their business? How do we now begin to tell them that they can getting a phone is a useful part of business, because some of them do not even believe that they should have phones. How do we get them to believe that phones is an important part of agribusiness? Begin to let them know that phone is a way to do customer, is a way to reach new markets. There are already existing technology, agri-techs that that give information on market demand. Someone wants to buy tomatoes, how do we get that company to come into their system so that when they now say, hey, get a phone, because when you get a phone, you receive call when there's a demand for tomato, and you can say yes or no, and then they can come pick up your tomatoes. Now those kind of technologies are what we should bring into those farmers. From there, when you are bringing conversations like drone, by the time a farmer has sold his tomatoes, by virtue of just getting a small phone and picking calls and saying yes and no, if you call the farmer back and say, you know what, we want to do drone now, is there anything, do we sell our produce? Yes, then let's go along. But if they don't see technology use, transform their life at the smallest of things, then it's harder to get ask a farmer to get tractor. Why should he get a tractor when it still makes them hungry? So these are just maybe as a general feedback again to Jacqueline is, simple technology is the perfect way to go, right? So focus on getting them to appreciate simple technology. Look out for companies that do extension using SMS, and then are there companies who are able to get phones to these farmers so they can even begin to receive market information, market demand information, and then we can grow their interest in technology from that means. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing
Mm.
that. And that's a really brilliant thought. Is that I mean, this guy's willing to learn as much as possible. Um, I think that they're also gonna be interested in embracing, new innovations to help their practices or to help them scale their practices. But we need to start from somewhere. And good thing that you just mentioned about similarly to what Jacqueline had also said, where they host watch parties and they deliver some visuals to the rural communities or the farmers within those rural communities, and they're able to at least see some things with their eyes and um, learn in that sense visually, and that also happens as often as possible so that they're able to gather all the knowledge that they need to promote their agricultural practices within their location. So again, moving on from that is where you can also start to introduce other areas of technology that slowly they can start to adopt and move to something bigger or a lot more advanced. So just following that line of thoughts, I think I'm going to ask Jacqueline this question and also have Lucy share thoughts around it. So it's about mentoring, and I know that we all understand the importance of mentoring in our practices, in multiple areas of our lives, and including the work that we do, whether on the entrepreneurship side or career side. But now bringing that to the rural community, Jacqueline, how do you think that mentoring, where do you see the impact of mentoring in promoting education for people within the rural communities?
Mentoring plays a very big role in everything. And I have seen the impact of mentoring, I myself, firsthand, and also the women that I'm working with. So, apart from farming, I also train these women how to process. I mentioned peanut butter. So, we started with few women, and then I think you have to mute your mic.
Sorry, please go on.
So this, yeah. So we always encourage these women to we use train of trainers model. When they have been trained, they also are given five women to be them. They also have to mentor other five women, and through this, we have seen a very significant impact. Whereby we started with 30 something women training, and now we have in total 816 women that have been trained. But it's not like direct training, but it's through mentorship. And also, we have a program whereby we doing agroforestry for livelihood. We are planting trees in the farm so that we should enhance soil erosion and maintain soil healthy. Apart from doing this with the women farmers, the women suggested that because them they're getting old, and we have to mentor the young ones because they'll be the one that will be taking care of the environment. So we started the mentoring session at primary schools and secondary schools whereby we have environmental clubs. The women they prepare the trees on the nursery, so they take the trees on the nursery, they give them to the students. We have adopt a tree program whereby every student adopt one tree, and when the tree has survived a year, these women they organize a certain price to give the students so that they should be motivated. They should keep on taking care of the tree. So when you look at this whole contest, it's about joyful to mentoring these women, and these women also transferring their knowledge to others so that they can take care of the same knowledge for generation to come. So mentoring plays a very crucial role. And the farmers that I'm working with in terms of irrigation schemes, they used to farm the usual crops, the maize, beans, what. So I introduced the cherry farming to them. At first, me also I was learning as I was going because I don't have but then I didn't have a qualification in agriculture. So we were learning together. I learned through online courses. I take the knowledge, I transfer it to the farmers. At first, we fail, we do blah 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 blah, but through that we have managed to grow chili, and now we have been growing chili for almost 3 years. And also, these women, these farmers of Christian Kingdom, they're also training other farmers to join the chili farming because they've seen that it's beneficial. So mentoring has, and it will still play a very big role in farmers in rural area.
So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing some of the things that you do, especially integrating mentorship. I think I'm going to twist that question a lot more for Lucy. So now, I mean, I did get some highlights about the plan in terms of peer-to-peer learning. So maybe this is the time to bring that conversation back. So now, farmer to farmer, whether in the high urban or peri-urban settlement, or semi urban settlement, or even the rural settlement, based on your previous experiences working with this demography of people. So peer to peer or farmer to farmer, that learning is highly effective. I can tell you for a fact. I did try peer mentoring one time, and it was an absolute amazing experience. So now bringing this into the agricultural setting, what kind of strategies do would you employ? I don't know if you've tried that model before, or what strategies are you looking to adopt to ensure that we encourage farmers to share knowledge within themselves and collaborate within their small clusters, or small groups or whatnot?
Hmm. Okay. Good question. So there are a couple of things we have tried out more recently. By tomorrow, we would be closing up what we call the Agrodemy Boot Camp. And that boot camp is our way of also introducing peer-to-peer modeling into the agricultural space. What we do is we look out for people who are interested in a particular agricultural product. So for this batch, we focused on people who had interest in plantain and people who had interest in catfish. And in the course of 2 weeks, we get them to first of all take online courses, but also have live calls with somebody who runs that business. What we have seen is that during live calls, people are super excited to hear from somebody doing what they are about to do or someone doing what they are doing. It helps them like compare notes, oh, okay, oh, this works, oh, this is not working, you know. So yes, I agree with you when you say peer-to-peer mentoring works. It honestly does work. Another model that we see that works for peer-to-peer mentoring is when you cluster people in communities and have knowledge sharing sessions. And especially when they are guided, most times when you allow people to just tell stories, they tell stories and these stories just get lost. A lot of information get lost in it. So with communities, what we now do is, if today the conversation is around land preparation, we gather community to just talk about, the various things they've done in just preparing their land. So this person talks about what he does to prepare the land. What was one time you prepared your land? What was one time that you had low productivity that you could identify that land preparation was an issue? It's at that point you get them to tell you stories about the wrong things they did when they were preparing their land, so it ties them that at the end of the day, we are able to say, okay, now from this whole conversation, what are 10 things we have learned that we should not do when we are preparing our land? What are things we have learned that we should do when we are preparing? And, the focus of that conversation is is on land preparation. So I realized that when you do mentoring, guided mentoring, there are a lot more measurable output as compared to unguided mentoring. Because with unguided mentoring, stories and information are all over the place. But with guided mentoring, you can always say what are the key points, what are the take home. So what would you stop doing? What would you start doing? So this is something that has worked. We have tried that in 2024, and we're looking to see how, with the non-profit arm of what we are doing, we would scale more of those kind of conversations in like 2025.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And this has been a very insightful conversation so far as we've touched, multiple areas. I would like to come back again to check on Mr. David. David, are you back fully with us, or you're still one leg in and one leg out? Hi, David, are you there? Okay. Can we just finally
I'm
agree that
100% here. Just that I don't
hi,
know.
David, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now we
Can you hear
can.
me?
Okay. Can we
Yes.
just finally agree that
Can you hear me?
Yes.
okay, you might have to go off the
Okay.
live. You might
Sorry,
have
I
to
don't
go off
know
the
if it's
live
my
so
network
that
or I don't know my problem this evening.
okay, no, what I was saying is that you would have to go off the live
Okay.
so that when I'm speaking, I don't echo. So you just focus here, just
I'm
try to stay
listening.
here. Okay. Okay. So now that you're here, thank you so much for I hope that this network really allows you to listen to the question that I'm gonna ask. Um so I see that you do a lot of work with farmers. I think that you're the most, after Jacqueline, you work closely with smallholder farmers, helping them to uh, get access to quality seeds and inputs. So from your perspective, what are some of the strategies that you currently work on, or you currently use to improve this access, especially for farmers in like rural community or remote areas? are you guys there? Is it just me or um David is
No, I
off?
can hear you. I think it's
Okay.
David's network.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's move back to you, Jacqueline. So we just have a few minutes to wrap up this conversation because we've spent some good time speaking.
Okay, can I?
Okay, okay, please go on. Did you hear the question?
I got you. Yes, I got echoing.
Awesome. Okay, so do you want to respond?
Can you hear me now?
We can. Please go on.
Okay, I wanted to talk. The strategy that has worked for me and my organization is the use of lead farmers. Yes, I'm saying something. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, yes, go on.
I said, okay, we use lead farmers. When you get to a community, we sort for the farmer that is like the best farmer at the time, the one that people look up to, and yeah, the innovative type, the ones that bring in new information to them in the local area. And then we introduce our innovation to him or her. And then we tend to do a demonstration on that person's farm or a plot of land given to us by either the community. Sometimes the chief of the community will be involved. They will give us a place that is very, very accessible to every, let me say, villager. They can pass it maybe by the roadside. Then we experiment or demonstrate our technology. Um, like we did that when I was with a Notore. So we had to get a plot, demonstration plot, and then we cultivated maize. Then used Notore fertilizer, fertilizing the maize. We introduced cultivating um, 1 grain of maize per hole and some other little technology like that. So it was by the road. Everyone was seeing it as it grew for the approximately 90 days till harvest. And on the harvest day, everyone saw it. And after that, we got a dealer because actually it's for a company. We had a dealer in the rural area, fertilizer, and the villagers, the farmers were now purchasing from that fellow because they had seen a practical demonstration. We use a lead farmer, and it has worked in various companies I've worked with. We did that with Nutoria, we did that with Syngenta, and even Candle.
Hmm. Awesome. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that model. So if you can hear me, okay. I know that you may have to go off the live so that so we don't hear me speak or you don't hear any other person speak. So if you've done that, thank you so much. So just as a follow-up question, I've heard this several times, and maybe Jacqueline and Lucy can attest to this, or maybe correct me if I'm wrong. That farmers can be a lot of times be resistant to adopting new practices. But now that David had said that he did test out with a lead farmer and also get the support of some of the community leaders and whatnot. Do you think that this sort of aperture model can be replicated in other communities to see the impact of it, considering with that ideology that farmers can sometimes be resistant to adopting new practices?
Hmm. Hmm.
David, can you hear me okay? David, you're muted if you're speaking. Okay, he's unmuted now.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. I heard. Yeah, I heard what you said. Am I to react to that statement? Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
Please, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we
That's
can.
one model, to penetrate rural areas, especially rural areas. Okay, rural areas have a particular demography. The people in the rural areas are mostly above 40, people who are middle aged, and they are very, very difficult to convince, just as you have said. So, a practice, what they see is what they believe. And most of them, if you are conversant with adoption process, they are never early adopters. They come in maybe late majority. So someone ought to use or practice the new technology or the innovation, just as the other speaker said. She talked about the use of phones, and if they have been able to succeed using phones, when you go to drones, they will also move likewise. So, from my experience with local farmers, they are more on the practical side. When they see this works, they will adopt it. And then whatever you bring next, they will also see it work again and adopt. That is how we can sequentially develop them to become, the best, to use the best technology at the time.
Okay, awesome. So if you don't mind, can you
That's one of
mute
that's
yourself?
my experience with them, though.
Can you stay muted now and go offline or like log off from the live so that when I speak,
Hello, did you hear
you
what I
can
said,
hear?
please?
Yes, we did.
So just try it. Okay. Oh, awesome. So you're muted now. Okay. So we do have like, just about three questions. One would be particularly around funding options for expanding or scaling agricultural education in different communities, whether on the urban side or the rural side. But before we talk about that, let me ask Jackie one last question around, I mean, the work that you do with, women and youth in your local community, which is really inspiring, by the way, from the impacts that you've just shared. But there's a key side to working with people in underserved communities, and one of those category of people would be people with disabilities. I know obviously you've done a good work with women and youth, which can be categorized as marginalized group or underrepresented group or underserved population. But for when you start to look at indigenous farmers within your community, and also people with disabilities, how do you think that we could provide also some type of education that would meet those category of people?
Thank you so much for your question. So, like for the part of team that I work with, we have three women who are disability. But then we don't sideline them because we believe that inclusivity it's very important too for a success outcome. So these women, we every time when we are meeting, we meet with them because they can't manage to be on the field, but mostly they contribute ideas. So we always take the ideas and implement them. And sometimes they'll be like, last time we did XYZ. Instead of doing XYZ, can we do ABCD? And with those ideas, we are able to change things for good, and together we are heading forward. So others, they have challenges to work, so we always encourage them to meet at their homes when we are having group meetings, to meet at their homes so that they should feel like big part of us. And for others that are on wheelchair, sometimes they put, no, don't worry about me. I'm okay. Like every time when you're coming to meet me at my home, you make me feel like I'm your burden to you. So also me, I have to come to your end so that we should meet halfway. But we always include them. We always tap in their knowledge and in the ideas. Like, oh, like I said, we always ask them, how should we go about this? What's your views? We have done XYZ. Are you okay with it? Of course, on that one, it's everyone on the group has to contribute and make sure that we are all we're all being on the same ground. So even them, we also include them so that we can have the ideas and for the success of the project. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm not sure if Lucy has any thoughts around that. But I'm gonna ask this other question that concerns. I mean, it's just been a question that's been bugging me, or it's been a concern that's been bugging me for a while, and it's just a question of. Um, I mean, the world is moving really fast, as we all know. Um, Things are changing by the second, and sometimes it can be hard to keep up. But when you're looking at these targets, people that's pretty much all of us on this call, we are looking to support or serve actively regardless of their geography. um, how do we see advanced technologies like AI, some finance technologies as well? How do we see a role that these technologies will play? Because it's not even seeming, even just hearing you guys respond to some of the questions, it's like we're still thinking of what are the least technologies that we could use to facilitate the solutions that we're creating, even like the knowledge that we're looking to pass. But I mean, the world is moving really fast. How do we, I mean, see how we can integrate, still integrate, or have these targets, audience, or the people that we're serving in those communities? How do we get them to now slowly start to adapt to using tools like um, Internet of Things to help, their sustainable practices, to help them improve in their productivity,
Hmm.
help them have access to irrigation knowledge, have them have weather predictions? How do we utilize these emerging and advanced technologies to meet the needs of these farmers in these different regions?
Okay. It's good you're saying this. When we start to have our last quarter review as a team, the this was what popped up, right? Everybody's designing trainings, but the one problem we are all making is we don't prioritize technology in our trainings, right? So there's David in the rural community training a lot of farmers, and no technological element to it, right? We 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 cannot grow in the agri space if we do not get to a point where we have policies that guide bringing up any form of training or capacity building in the agricultural sector without technology embedding. We need to get to the point where we say it's either you're ready to use technology or you're out of the space, right? If we don't do it, we are not going to get a lot of people in the agricultural space. We have gone past people running capacity building program with no online course. They should learn how to use their phones. We have gotten to the point where we say, hey, if you can't even use your phone to take an online training, how are you supposed to grow your agri business using technology? We have gotten to that stage now in the agricultural sector. We have also gotten we've also gotten to the stage where we are saying you cannot just grow an agri business with your knowledge. And that is why our focus for Agrodemy next year is the Agro Digital Officer Academy. Everybody in the agricultural sector deserves to know the technology they need to thrive. And that's why next year we are putting all of our energy in the Agro Digital Officer Academy program. And beyond that, we are working on the Agro Digital Agro Tech Conference. And the goal of the Agro Tech Conference is for it to be a yearly program where players in the agricultural sector come and learn about new technologies that they can use to improve their agribusiness. Technology improvement is happening every year, but we don't have a system where we can see this new technology and know how we can begin to imbibe them. So, what that conference is going to be doing for us is such that people who take our program, who take these online courses, can begin to know how they can integrate technology into anything they do in the agricultural sector. And with the conference, people can come together to say, okay, in this conference, I run maize. You come and learn the technology you can use to improve your maize farm. You run a livestock farm. Come and learn the technology that you use to make your livestock farm sustainable. You run an academy. You run trainings. Come and learn the technology you can use to make your trainings better. Like, I feel like we're now in the phase where nobody should do anything in agriculture without doing technology. For the as far as you have access to technology, please make sure you integrate technology in what you are doing. And that is why I found my face at physical training programs with no form of technology aspect to it. Because what we are doing is we are raising more people who will not appreciate technology. And the more we raise more people who do not appreciate technology, the more it is difficult for us to introduce technology in the agricultural space, especially in Africa. And if we don't do that, growth can never happen. There are some level of growth which we desire in Africa that cannot happen if we don't bring technology. But if at the initial phase of even training, we struggle to get people to use technology, appreciate technology, then we have a long way to go. Then we are only moving backward. So how do you integrate technology in the simplest thing? When you do trainings, get people to watch videos, get them to begin to believe that content online are true and real. Look for real content. If you don't know where to get real content, go to Agrodemy YouTube, get them to watch it. That way they can begin to see that, oh, okay, wow, beyond having you here, if I have a phone, I can actually watch these videos without waiting for you. They begin to appreciate the need to even have a phone and come online. From get coming online to take knowledge, you can begin to then introduce other technology to them. If we don't move that way, we are going to be lost in the jungle. And this is now a cry of concern, right? It's now a cry of concern. If people don't use technology now to start learning agriculture, and we keep telling them, oh, you have to learn it physically, oh, you need to be on the farm to learn it, we are only going to be raising the same circle of poor farmers everywhere, because technology is what you need to scale. And if we don't introduce them to technology now, we will keep churning out the same set of wrong farmers across everywhere in the agricultural sector. So, in conclusion, we should all carry it as a mandate as players in the agricultural sector to say, I will never do any form of training without including technology aspects to it, because we all need to raise technology savvy agribusiness owners if we want the change we desire in the agricultural sector. And technology could be as simple as getting them to take online courses. Get them to take online courses, get them to use digital learning platform. When they tell you they want to come to your farm, encourage them to learn online. Get them to see the advantage of learning online over coming to the farm. Let them know that they save the environment, because by the time they travel, that's more CO in the atmosphere, affecting climate change that overall affect our productivity. Let them know why they have to learn online. Get them to begin to trust technology for their education. If they can trust technology for their education, they will trust technology for monitoring. They'll begin to trust technology for delivery. They'll begin to trust technology for sales. E-commerce will then begin to thrive. By the time you're only telling a farmer to come to your farm before and to come to your facility, to go to a particular location to buy seedling before they can farm, you are preaching against technology. The next time you meet a farmer that tells you that, oh, I want to buy seedling, I'm struggling with it, give the farmer a phone number and say, call and make payment. By asking them to make payment, you have introduced financial technology into the space. That farmer gets comfortable with creating accounts. But by the time you also collect cash and say, oh, go to a particular, what you have done is that you have told that farmer that using technology to buy seedlings is wrong. You have let that farmer know that having an account is not the right way to go. Let them begin to see that technology can happen. Integrate it when you step out. You don't have an account number, so why don't you have an account number? Get them to open an account on the spot and let them know that increase your charges so that people who do not use technology pay more, so that people can be forced to use the technology. If we don't do that in Africa, we can't grow. We can't. If simple technology is still a problem for us in agriculture, we cannot grow. We can. That is why we have so many e-commerce system and they are not selling. They are not selling because none of us are preaching e-commerce to them. Everybody keeps convincing people to go to the farm to buy food stuff. Can we begin to ask people to pick calls and make calls so that we can move food? If we begin to do that, all these things will make everybody embrace technology. When we're talking about drones and tractors, nobody will be fighting it. But people will continue to fight drones and tractors because, as simple as digital education, we are not even embracing it. So I hope that this is a call for everyone to say, from now henceforth, if there's a technology to what I do in the agricultural sector, I would use the technology. And if we all begin to live our life like that, more people will embrace technology. And the bigger tech we need to thrive, the AI we need to thrive, the IoT we need to thrive, will sell for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful and such an admonition. I mean, because I wanted somebody to say it on this chat. I mean, we've been talking too much around how do we downscale things to meet the needs of these farmers. But the reality of things is that um, the introduction of advanced technology is coming in with a full wave, and it's like people in the rurals, they're not even thinking around because they have not even gone past a level that they are the level they are comfortable functioning at. So if we start to maybe aggressively introduce these sort of technologies, maybe we can start to see some adoption or changes in it. And thank you so much for highlighting that, Lucy. So again, I promised two more questions around funding, and then I was going to ask David this particular one with regards, the stakeholder ecosystem, who are the people who, we need support from to help us to scale knowledge training, to bridge knowledge gap between people in those remote communities. So David, this question is for you, and maybe from your marketing efforts or your sales efforts, you may have at some point worked with whether it's in the private or government parastatals. Have you done any sort of partnership or collaboration with the government or even any other private entity? Uh, the reason why I'm asking this question is because, just again, talking about the adoption of technology down to, the remote communities, we see that, we're lacking infrastructure. I like how Lucy had also mentioned that a lot of e-commerce companies or platforms are not thriving, and that's because they have to deal with regulations. They have to deal with lack of infrastructure. So considering that, the reason why maybe a lot of people or farmers within those rural communities might be slow in adopting this technology is that there are no infrastructure, there's no internet, there's no electricity, there are no good roads. So how do we? What is the best approach to work with the private sector, the government sector, in ensuring that we have or we start to see improvements in the provision of infrastructure? David, you are muted. David, are you able to hear us? Okay, I'm just gonna give a few seconds, and then I would probably take perhaps the last question. Otherwise, maybe Lucy or Jacqueline, you can provide maybe some context to it, how you think that some of the
Yes.
government. David, you can go on to provide your answer now.
Okay. You can hear me now, I believe. During the last government in Nigeria, there was a program that we worked with. It's NISAL. The government demanded farmers to come in clusters, in groups.
We can't. I think we lost you, David. We're not able to hear you, David. If you can hear us. But to also maybe just wrap this conversation, because I think that we have maxed out our time. So let's maybe just talk around what do you call it, funding. Lucy and Jackie, how how do you think the funding space has been for people that are promoting sustainable agriculture like yourself and Lucy, perhaps even through education as well? Have you been able to access some level of funding? um, is the funding space as open as people portray it to be, or it's still difficult to get access to the funding that you need to move or to scale up your some of your program activities or your training programs? What does that space look like, and how do we improve on things, especially the people who have the resources to support others who are promoting sustainable practices within the continent?
Just before
All right,
Jacqueline will speak. Okay,
go ahead,
go
Lucy.
ahead. Oh, thank you. Um, so when it comes to funding, there are two things that I've noticed in the space. So first thing first is that we currently sit in a world where in the part of the world here in Africa where people believe that education should not be paid for. So what that also means is that education as a business in the agricultural sector is not sustainable except you are providing education as a service to support people who want to deliver education as benefits for using their platform. So what that means is that most of the fundings that are available are more targeted to impact focused organization. Also, I realize that we are still in a world where people still have issues with the fact that someone sets out to build an education company in the agricultural sector because the belief is that it's only he who owns an agri business has the ability or should run an academy around what they are doing. And I find that very funny because we all go through the 4 walls of university where lecturers teach us a lot of things that they don't do apart from being lecturers and researchers. But when we come to the agricultural sector, people question, oh, don't you have a farm? Where's your farm? Let me see your farm. That validates why you should run a school of such. There's no community centric approach to this thing, and it's affecting funding. So we are at the space where we need a lot of funders to first of all begin to see agri education as business and begin to fund it like business. Secondly, we are in a space where we need more of existing stakeholders in the agricultural sector to begin to learn about outsourcing their educational bit, especially if it's not the core of their operation, so that it allows for funders to also know that agric education can be a business. So with what we currently have in the world, every company has an education bit to what they are doing. Every company has an education bit, and what that has done is that it has destroyed, or will I say limit, the growth of agric education as a business. If we can have more streamlined approach to this thing like we have in the tech space, then there's going to be a lot of growth. Like in the tech space, we have a lot of tech companies, but they don't run schools teaching people how to build their tech products. They leave tech education for tech schools, and when they are doing operation, they focus on their operation. If we can have that in the agri sector, we'll be able to raise more agri professionals that can then dive back as professionals in existing agri companies. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Jackie, you can go. I think that you're muted.
Oh, I was saying that Lucy has tackled almost everything, and I don't know where to start from. So, based on my experience, funding is there for people who are into agri sector, but then they want you to start for them to come in. People always want to associate themselves with success. You start, they think that you are doing very good, that you can finance this X, Y, and Z. So the best thing for you to attract funding is to start. But for you to start, you can start without enough resources. You still our government is unlike other countries whereby the government has special program whereby they give youth grants for other differences and whatnot. In Malawi, there's no such thing. So you start it on your own, but when after a year or two, when other people or the government institution are saying that, oh, she's doing amazing, she's just liking this and that, how best can we support her? That's when they can refer you to other NGOs, international organizations that are doing similar programs that they can able to fund you to help you. But when you start farming, when you do XYZ, you are on your own. You are on your own. So you need to strive to make your business to be where you want it to be. When you get grant or other financial helps, glory be to God, you have been lucky, but it won't be always like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And we just hope that, um, things are going to improve, especially with a lot more organizations, to start to look at um, companies who are focused, or other organizations who are focused on promoting access to knowledge or bridging the knowledge gap within these farming communities. I hope that they can start to pay attention to it, supporting these other for-profit businesses. I suppose thinking that they are not for profits, and are a lot more focused on impacts. I suppose also being sustainable or sustaining a business in that sense. But I know that you can agree that we've had a good chat today. We could have loved to hear a lot more from David, but unfortunately, time is far spent, and we do have to let everybody go enjoy their evening and have a wonderful weekend. So perhaps to the next webinar session, we can still continue these conversations, in our own social platforms, and also on our official platforms at HearMed. So I'd like to use this chance to thank every single one of you for these, thoughtful answers, for engaging in some of the questions, even maybe some of them were a little bit outside of maybe your scope, but you still were able to provide some reasonable answers. And we've had I've also had some also great ideas as well from some of the things that you've said. And I'm just thankful, like we're thankful at EMET, to have had you grace our stage. I'm just going to do like 1 minute summary of, some of the insights that I was able to take note of on this call. So we had started with, talking around the barriers that, farmers, face in, at the community level when it comes to accessing education, and Jacqueline was able to provide some context to that. And as we started to go further, we're talking about what are some of the innovative solutions that we could adopt, what have we been doing before, and what can we now start to do, so that we're able to provide accessible education. We've heard that farmers need this knowledge. They want the knowledge. They're looking for opportunities to get this knowledge. So we pretty much just need to put heads together and find some innovative solutions that we can use to aggressively get them to adopt technology, or get them to adopt bigger solutions, so that they're able to gain more knowledge on improving their practices. We also delved into the work that Jacqueline does, empowering youth and women who pretty much fall on the marginalized group of the population. And also we also talked about partnerships. We talked about how we can provide access to some emerging technologies, so that we're able to scale access to knowledge, access to tools, access to resources, input seeds, all of these things that form, or that helps farmers to get the right solution, so that they're able to continue to provide nutritious food that every one of us would enjoy on the continent. So thank you so much to all our guests, Jacqueline, David, and Lucy, for also sticking back on the call. Network fluctuations or not. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your invaluable insights. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your commitment towards transforming agriculture, one farmer at a time. So to every other person who joined the live session on YouTube or would watch later, let's continue the conversation. Let's stay connected, follow our speakers on their social platforms as well. You can also just, find them on the internet and follow them, follow the work that they do, support them, celebrate them, at any chance that you get. So yes, this is us, just signing off for today, and I want to wish every one of you on the stage a wonderful evening, a lovely weekend, and yes, let's keep empowering farmers, one step at a time. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks for having us. See